This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mondays with the Mayor. This is our second to last show before we move it to Sundays and over to Wahoo Willie's for another live show rather than remote show. And before we get to our special pinch hitter for tonight, I want to remind you all that tonight's show is sponsored in part by Blue Shift Cybersecurity. Their platform is extremely affordable. They're based out of Fort Myers. The co-founder and chief technology officer is a Fort Myers Beach resident. Every size business, no matter how small, is a target and needs an effective defense to the hackers, to the crazies out there, the small businesses that they're trying to get into and steal your information and steal your credit card stuff. Their solution is 100% managed and monitored by U.S.-based Security Operations Center. So give Blue Shift, that's SHIFT, cybersecurity a call at 305-767-3853. 305-767-3853. Joining us right now from his beautiful home on Fort Myers Beach is the vice mayor of Fort Myers Beach, filling in for the mayor tonight, who has some things he needed to take care of personally. So we're happy to have Jim sitting in to take us through some of the issues on Fort Myers Beach. Jim, how are you?
Hey, good evening, Ed and Kim. How are you? How are you this evening?
Doing great. Good. Great. Had a great holiday. Did you have a good holiday?
Oh, just tremendous. You know, we did it backwards. We went out to dinner at Snug Harbor, had a turkey meal at Snug Harbor, which was excellent on Thursday. And then we ended up cooking turkey that we saw at Publix. And we just said, hey, we got to have, we didn't really do this because we love the leftover piece of it. So we had really 2 Thanksgivings. So it was very nice. I want to say briefly, if I could, and I hope Dan doesn't mind that I say this, but I want to encourage our viewers to be praying for Dan and the Allers family. They lost, Dan lost his grandmother, and I believe he's flying back to Minneapolis for the funeral. So just encourage folks to pray for Dan and his family during this loss. I mean, I was blessed with 4 wonderful grandparents who had a huge impact on my life. And so to lose a grandmother like that, I'm sure it's a big impact to Dan and his family. So just encourage folks to be praying for Dan.
Yep, and he did say they were very close and that he would actually be on a flight right at 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. So, yeah, if you want to send him a note, I'm sure you all have his email address. I'm sure they'd appreciate it if you had the time to send something over to him. So, yeah. So, Jim, let's start right off with.
Just say
go
thing.
ahead. Yeah,
I want to. That's a hard segue to come off of, but look at this sweatshirt.
How dare you?
Ed, before the show, Kim, before the show, I was teasing Ed because the success of the black apparel, I'm sure you're reminding Ed on a regular basis as to how successful the sales have been. And that must be very painful, Ed, but you've been quite a gentleman in terms of how you've handled all that.
Jim, but one of the things that she hits a home run with the first product she actually comes up with. It took almost 6 years, but can you imagine how great the product line would be if she would just focus a little bit, more down, get her time frame down to pick something out?
I think she saves up all the intellectual capital and just releases it all at once, and has huge success each time she does that. Some of us just go on and on and on, but she husbands and marshals her skill sets until it's really strategically critical. Then she'll launch.
You're giving me way too much credit, so that the next thing I do is kind of like.
There's a lot of buzz in the community right now. I just got a quick video from Tom at TPI about the 350 employees that are all over at the resort now training. I know the brand is in town today, and they're working with TPI and the employees, and it's going to be a big deal for Fort Myers Beach when Margaritaville opens. What's your view on that situation, Jim?
Well, first of all, I saw that clip of the employee training session, Ed, on your Facebook page. It's very impressive. 350 jobs created. I think, I think when we were talking the other day at Mr. Wave's grand opening, I think the impact of Margaritaville opening, I think and actually the impact happened months and months ago, almost immediately after Ian, because the owners, Tom and John, were literally unwavering in their quest to open Margaritaville. They never wavered. They never said, "Oh, we got to think about this. We got to regroup." I mean, they said, "We are all in." And I think, with the uncertainty at that time, I think it gave not only residents, it was a beacon of hope for many people, but it was also sort of an anchor of security for folks, and particularly the businesses. I mean, the high cost of capital right now is really intense, and of course their desire for risk is very low right now, the investor community. So they see an entity like Margaritaville all in. They see that they've got a quest, they're going to open, and it just encourages all the businesses around Margaritaville on the island. It gives them a kind of a stability, if you will, in the marketplace that says, hey, there are folks who are going to make this, or are committed to making this island a success. And I think it really breeds success elsewhere. And we've seen it. There certainly have been no shortage of folks coming in to offer ideas as to how to rebuild, and new projects and renovated projects. And so I just think it's created this atmosphere of success. And, and aside from the fact that it's just a really cool development. I've been through it a couple times. And of course, you see all the big stuff when you drive by. I just was down there the other day, and I was talking to the muralist. I don't know if that's a word or not, but the gentleman who was creating the mural of the seaplane, which was Jimmy Buffett's actual seaplane. And we were just talking. It was just beautiful. But then I remembered back, I was going back through some of the pictures when I did an early tour, and you go every bathroom and every room in Margaritaville where the sink is, they have these two little knobs. They're actually fish fins for knobs on every. So the attention to detail, not just big stuff, on the little stuff. I mean, it's just such a quality product, and I think they're going to really be encouraged when they get a chance to see and experience it.
So one final note on that. So for people that had been kind of paying attention to what we're up to with Margaritaville, you probably know our show is moving there Saturday, December 9th. And we have probably so far 200 people that have reserved a spot because they want to hear the story right from Tom and John and David. And although you can't really reserve a spot, it's not a place where you can reserve a spot. We're trying to get a head count. People. So you come early if you want to get your seat. You reserve your spot with your own ass. That's what happens. You put your butt in the chair or you put your hat in the chair or something. But besides that, there's going to be $189 special room rate just for Beach Talk Radio followers that will come out sometime this week. And I do believe it's going to be December 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, which they haven't even announced yet that they're going to be open. Right now, they've announced the 14th. So that's going to be one killer rate for a lot of local people. And so keep an eye on our Facebook page for that. And lastly, we're working on a special drink menu just for people who come to the show on Saturdays. So everybody can feel like, I think part of the challenge was that some people might have thought that, okay, we're going from one place to another place. We're going to pay $20 more for a resort drink because we're going to a resort. They're working through making sure people understand it's not going to be crazy like that. Now, I don't know what the prices are going to be like, but they understand that we want to, convert people over and they want to be able to afford what they can. So all those things are coming up in the next few days.
Well, extremely exciting time for the island. And I'm sure it's exciting for all those surrounding businesses, because what people forget sometimes is that not only will this draw a lot of folks to Margaritaville, but a lot of folks will explore once they get here, and they're going to be eating and visiting shops and restaurants all over the island. And it's just going to be for our economy across the island. And quite frankly, it'll just be a tremendous encouragement as we continue to rebuild the island.
Yeah. And they've made, for a long time now, they've talked about discounts for residents, and now they're doing this for folks that follow the show. So, I mean, it's clear that their commitment is to do what's best and make inroads with people that are down there and honor that. And we're looking forward to going there.
Yeah. And they don't need to do that with us. They're a big resort, a big
Right.
brand. They don't need to do that with us. I mean,
And
they're even talking about,
you.
they're even talking about putting special cups together with the two logos on it for the show and stuff. But plenty more to come on that. And thank you to John.
Oh, go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thanks to John for putting the mayor's email address up there in case anyone wants to send him a note about his grandmother passing. So, obviously, Jim, the big question.
Well, wait.
Oh, you got the big question. Go ahead. Sorry.
I want to on Margaritaville real quick. The
okay.
That 25% discount for residents is tremendous, and that's something that they didn't have to do. But they pledged to do it early on in the process, and they're keeping their word, which I think is outstanding. But I think too, the intangible piece of this, and we see it throughout the process, is early after the hurricane, there were I hate to use this term, but there were threats to close the beach school, and there was all kinds of folks gathered at the various hearings at the Lee County School District, and here's Tom Torgeson, the owner of our largest resort, or soon to be our largest resort, and certainly a huge employer in the community. He's down there at the school board meeting pleading for the school to stay open because he's going to encourage his employees who don't live on the island. Some of them do live on the island, by the way, but for those who don't, to encourage their kids to go to the beach school to really help our numbers. And here he is testifying, a guy who lives on the island. I mean, I don't know how you value that. That's an intrinsic value to have and again, one of the other things that's so encouraging to me as we listen and look at all the folks who are interested in rebuilding on Fort Myers Beach, most of that capital is headquartered in Southwest Florida, which I think is really encouraging. These are entities that have a reputation. They want to maintain that reputation. They care about the local community. So that, to me, instead of having out of state capital, which again, if you don't have anything coming in, that's great, or out of the country capital, these folks come once for the ribbon cutting, you never see them again. I mean, you can't put a price on having local developers who are engaged and from the community, because it just adds an intangible, which we have seen many times from Tom and Mary. Mary, of course, raising all kinds of money for local charities and very involved in the community. So, I mean, to have that kind of commitment from owners is really, really special. And quite honestly, in my experience in economic development, very unique.
Okay, just one last thing. You brought it up, so I wanted to fill in any details that people might not have known about. The 25% discount, you can't go online and register for that. What you can go online and see is what the details are of what you're going to get if you're a full-time Fort Myers Beach resident. And what's going to happen is they're going to have several events in the community where they say, okay, it's a pop-up event. You need to come down to this area at this time of the day, and you need to bring your driver's license. And your driver's license has to have a Fort Myers or 33931 address on it. You need to bring your driver's license to prove it. What I did find out today, if you're 6 months here and you're 6 months in Wisconsin and your license says Wisconsin, you can't get the discount. The discount has to be for 33931 residents, and that means full-time resident. Now, I suppose if you have if you're only here for 6 months and you have a Fort Myers Beach driver's license, you're golden.
Right.
So just stay tuned for that. That's coming up. When they get through this employee training and when they get through this other stuff that's going on with the brand in town, the details of when those are going to be, we were kind of sharing ideas about a person, which is a person that the town is leaning against because the town says he's running an illegal parking lot at the Mr. Tequila lot. So what do you know, all that drama aside, but what do you know about those two opening?
Well, that's the challenge, Ed. And when we were talking the other day about public benefits, one of the things that I suggested as a public benefit for folks who are coming in with new ideas is retail space, because particularly in the Mid-Island and the northern part of the island, those two plazas are key retail space locations. Mm-hmm. And the owner, and again, I'm trying to be kind here and I don't want to speak out of turn, but extremely volatile, extremely difficult, and not only to the town, but to his patrons, to the people who rent from him. And it's been a real challenge, in my opinion. And I think it's a very volatile situation for the island. So there's no communication with respect to timelines for either one of those locations. They seem to be doing a little work at Seagrape. The Kia Estero place is struggling. It's just that those are two real challenges for the town because both are privately held. And again, this owner has a history of volatility, And in my opinion, it's been very difficult. I just have talked to folks who are tenants and have been tenants there, and it's really a challenge for the island. So the more opportunities we can to help and hopefully resolve the challenges between the town and the owner. But I think that it's much bigger than the town's challenges with this owner. This owner has a unique approach to people and to business. That's don't know really. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can. I've never seen anything like it, but it's a challenge for the island.
All right.
What about CVS?
Moving on.
Well, on a much brighter note, the CVS folks, they're in high gear, and they are still planning on opening on December 15th. We don't know the time yet. There will be a kind of a media tour on the 14th, which I believe Ed and Kim have been invited to, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity for folks to get kind of an inside view of things through Beach Talk Radio and through other media folks who would be there on the 14th and get a little flavor. But they don't. Their corporate structure is such where they don't do a lot of big ribbon cuttings, and that's not the. I think they want a relatively soft opening on the 15th, where hopefully everyone just doesn't come right when they open. Maybe come throughout the day and over the next few days, because they only have only so much staff in there to accommodate a huge surge like that. So I think they want to have it to be kind of a phased in. I mean, they'll be ready to go, as I understand it. They'll be. I mean, I've seen the store. It's not, when I was in there, it wasn't stocked yet, but it was everything but stocked, and it was beautiful. And they've done a great job. They've done a nice job with the landscaping. I mean, it's just, and people ask me about the color. Why the new color? I think I said some time ago, it's interesting. The color that it is now was the exact color that the original CVS was. It just hadn't been painted in like 20 years. So it had just faded into a whole another kind of a beachy, different color. But the color that it is now was the original color. So very optimistic about the CVS. And so that's an encouraging sign for the South End. And then they'll have I'm sorry, Ed?
You know how things get on the island when somebody sees a different color. Immediately, everybody thought it was turning into a Rite Aid.
Right. No issues there. The CVS folks and the contractor and the teams, great. They're going to have a private consultation room in the CVS. So for folks who want to talk privately, as somebody who was a regular customer of CVS, you'd have people that have usually long lines, because I think it was the pharmacist Allie at the time told me it was the third busiest CVS in Florida during season. And, you'd be trying to talk to the pharmacist with 20 people behind you. And, and then they'd try to be discreet, but they're like, oh yeah, hemorrhoids. Yeah, we got some stuff for hemorrhoids over in aisle 4. I think they're looking for a much more private consultation area for the pharmacists. Plus, if people need to get their flu shots or whatever they want to get, that can all be done in private as well, where before that was all open. And I think they also are giving more room for the pharmacy staff, because it's really a tough work environment in there, especially as busy as they are. So they're trying to, I think, improve the quality of life for their pharmacists, whoever that will be. Unfortunately, I've been texting back and forth with Allie, who was the previous pharmacist, who's wonderful and was so great with the people. And she's with a different entity in Tampa now, so she won't be back. But hopefully they'll find somebody as wonderful as Allie was. Did you get the hemorrhoid thing taken care of? Are you good now? For me, I'm just saying it was just something that when somebody asks for advice and they
I'm kidding.
It was just. It was a little challenging from a privacy standpoint, as much as they try to help.
So what about the 7-Eleven? I saw you had a post, but for folks who didn't see that, can you update them?
Another bit of good news. I wish it was a little quicker, but they've got all their permitting done and they're ready to go. They're going to start on Monday, December 4th, I believe it was. I think that was my note. Start date, Monday, December 4th, and they anticipate being open with gas for vehicles by early February. The contractor said it's a big job. I mean, it doesn't appear to be a big job, but I do think because of those underground storage tanks, and there's so many environmental regulations, particularly at the federal level and the state level, that they've got to be really sensitive to how they handle that job. And so the building itself is still standing, of course. Like I said, I put out some pictures. But the contractor told me it's a pretty big job. So, but they are going to get started on the 4th, and again, hopefully be open by early February, which again is another milestone for the island because it'll be the first place that sells gas on the island. And that'll be a huge plus for our residents and all the construction folks who are here rebuilding, and quite frankly, even the town's vehicle fleet. I mean, just to be able to stay on island to get gas. I mean, it's a huge boost, and of course, all the other sundry items that 7-Eleven offers too. So I think that'll be really encouraging when that happens as well.
Cool. Well, 2024, Jim, is going to be an interesting year when it comes to the development of the bigger commercial ventures that have been proposed. We got the Neptune later this week is going to do their pitch again to the community on Thursday. We're going to be interviewing them Wednesday night from the Neptune, which they haven't cleaned up yet. And you got, a couple of the other ones. Ben Freeland decided to take a pause about 30 days ago-ish after the town council and the LPA decided that they weren't going to change the comp plan. And then last week he decided that he was going to move forward with his proposal, which you're looking at right now, and see what happens. Let the, roll the dice and see if this can get approved. And so what are your thoughts on the Moss Marina project?
Well, here's my observation. I love the location. I love the concept. I'm a little concerned and I haven't seen any real good granular detail on the impact on traffic for Old San Carlos or even Estero as folks get on and off. I love that water taxi concept, and I'd love to see what their role will be in that. I think you really have two schools of thought on the Moss Marine project based upon the public input that I have heard and seen. You've got the folks who are all in for the project as it is. And then I think you've got a pretty substantial group of people that say, listen, I like the project, but the scale is just too much. And so I think I see my role as being someone to try to help mediate or try to find a compromise between the folks who want it the way it is and the folks that want to see a significant reduction in the scale of the Moss Marine. So I'm hoping we can reach a compromise somewhere where, again, the scale is reduced at least significantly, and that we can find that happy medium where it's still a business model that works. It still has all the public benefits and amenities that are so intriguing about the site, and that the folks that had concerns about the density and the issues, I hope we can resolve and at least give people some comfort about that. I think it's going to be one of these outcomes where nobody's happy, but if we'll find a common ground compromise where everybody can live with it and we can move forward in a positive way.
So just between us kids, do you believe Ben when he says, listen, this is it. This is the bottom line. I have a proposal here. Take it or leave it.
I don't, when you say believe, I mean, this is a very successful business person. I can't imagine that's been his motto in business his whole life. I assume he's had to make compromises and find a middle ground. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to find that place where again he's comfortable, that the business model still works, and we can find a scale for this project that more folks on the island are comfortable with. And I think again it's just going to be a little bit of a give and take, hopefully in a very positive way. Because I do think there's a lot of goodwill towards this project, and I just again it's everybody being willing to compromise a little bit. My guess is at the end, most folks won't be thrilled with the deal, which means we've probably done something right, and everybody's had to give a little bit.
Do you think it gets approved the way it is now by either of the two? Well, your elected body, but the LPA is appointed.
When you see as it is the way it is now. I just can't imagine a project of this scale coming into a process through the LP and the council without having some significant compromises along the way. That's just the way the process works. We saw that with Margaritaville. I mean, nobody wants to go through the lengthy process Margaritaville went through. I mean, nobody wants that again. But at the same time, the principle of being willing to give and take and to find common ground, I think that's going to weigh on everyone, and hopefully everyone is willing to be open-minded about it and to go into the process with a good heart and try to find a place where everybody, at least the vast majority of folks, are comfortable. We'll never please everybody, but if we can find a common sense solution that still works for everyone, that would be the goal on this one. And I'm hopeful that all parties will come forward in a spirit of compromise as we try to address this one.
All right.
Wait,
So
are you going to ask about that next
Yeah.
one? Okay. Well, before you
Oh
ask about
my
it. So just so you might not know this, just for everybody, we're going to ask about the outrigger. Obviously, that's a big project on the island, and it's further along than it's nowhere along, but the process is probably a little further along than most people think. And the town council, from what I understand, has seen pictures of what London Bay is proposing to put on that property. Nobody else has yet. I tried to steal them from somebody and get them up so everybody else could see it. And I understand that's probably coming in January. But what did you see? What did you like?
Well, went out to their headquarters. I didn't come away with any pictures because they were all of the sketches that we saw were very preliminary. And there was nothing nefarious about these meetings. They're trying to get a sense of what the community wants, what they're looking for, what roadblocks they need to get over, what issues they're trying to address. They were very open about addressing, and again, this is just the early phase. They're going to meet with all the neighborhood folks. They're going to want to try to be sensitive to their concerns. So this is really a process of an evolutionary process. But the initial product that I saw, I have to say, I was just blown away. It's spectacular. And again, there'll be things along the way that we'll need to compromise on and think about and address. But at the same time, they've given this a lot of thought. And it will be a beautiful addition to the South End, and it's quite frankly, it's amazing. So that being said, the scale, we'll have to wrestle with that. But at the same time, it's a business model. We don't have quite the traffic issues on the South End, so they get a little bit more grace on that front. But at the same time, and quite honestly, it's not as aggressive room-wise as you might think, as some of the other places have been, proposals have been thus far. And I don't want to steal their thunder at all, so I won't give any of the details away. But I mean, they're trying to respect the tradition of the outrigger. They're trying to respect the restaurant tiki aspect. They even have a roof, a bar situation that's spectacular. I mean, they've got a lot of amenities that are all open to the public that are going to be really nice. A beach access piece to it. And again, I'll let them declare it and roll it out. But when they roll it out, they're still working under the premise that, hey, we need to hear from the community. We need to get input from the residents, the LPA council, and everyone involved in the community. But just coming out of the box, and again, I think the reason why they haven't released these yet is that they're evolutionary. They're still working through them. And for some of the areas that they're design issues there's no right or wrong. They're just trying to get a sense of what the Fort Myers Beach community wants. But I do think people will be very impressed by this. And it will offer a lot of amenities to the public that, for the South End, to have something nice and new like this will really be a big shot in the arm, particularly during season.
So,
Did
you say someone's asking about a public space beach side? So I'm wondering if they're talking about a beach access, and you said yes, there would be beach access.
Beach access, as well as they may be also referring to as everybody knows, the outrigger has this beautiful history of this tiki bar, and I think that the new London Bay folks are trying to respect that and make sure that that's another piece of the puzzle for the residents in the area, because it's a huge gathering place for people on the South End. And quite frankly, there's so few places on the ocean that you can eat. Or on the Gulf, people always correct me. I like to say it's the ocean because it looks like the ocean, but it's the Gulf. But there's very few places on the South End where you can be on the water. And quite honestly, a lot of people, the reason why we incur all this risk to be on a barrier island, not only is it beautiful, but we want to be on the beach as much as we can, particularly to have a cool beverage or have something to eat. And to have a venue like that will be really important, I think, to the South End, just to give people more choices. And again, I was a huge frequenter of Santini Plaza, but boy, to watch the sunset on the beach while you're having a bite to eat and a cool beverage and some live music, it's just nothing better than that. And to have those options on the South End, I think, will be really important. I did stress to these folks, and they were listening. They also own Charlie's Boathouse, which is across the street. And I did mention the concern of neighbors that the canals, even though they're not private, they're residential canals, and to be very sensitive about there's been a lot of discussion of commercial boat traffic on those residential canals. And I encourage them to at least consider maybe using Fishtail Marina and have the boats come there, and then they could shuttle the folks over to the outrigger, which is not very far away. And I know that they're thinking about that. They're listening, and they haven't made any decisions on Charlie's yet. So but I do think they want to hear from the neighbors, and they're going to try to come up with some ideas and proposals. But I made sure that they understood that the community was very concerned about that. The height issue is a little less sensitive there because there's just commercial buildings across the street, so it really won't block anyone's view. And of course, there's some very tall condos on each side. So again, and I think you have a little bit more flexibility on the south end. But I think it's going to be really interesting and exciting for people to see this. And quite frankly, as somebody who lives on the south end, it really gives me some hope that we're going to have some neat venues on the south end to complement everything that's happening on the north end.
So you mentioned the height, and without giving it away, how tall you saw the proposal, do you think when people see the pictures, they're going to freak out about the height? Because that's been a big issue.
And the height is something everyone's really sensitive to. We've certainly heard from the public, but there's different issues, and we'll get to this in a minute when we talk about the red coconut. Now, the architects are really smart, and they can stagger the height so the height is closer to the back of the street, closer to the ocean. And again, you've got some pretty tall condos on each side there, so it really won't look out of sync, and it fits in relatively naturally. And so I think it works. Again, there's compromise along the way that'll have to be employed, and we'll certainly be sensitive to all the residents who live in that area. And quite frankly, everybody on the island will have a view on this thing. But I just think coming out of the box, pretty impressive. I mean, they're making quite an investment in our island.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that knows London Bay, they can look them up and see that they don't make Mickey Mouse projects. They know what they're doing. They're strong builders, and and they want to be part of the Fort Myers Beach community. They already are over in Bay Beach. And so we'll see what happens. And I guess that's coming out in January, right? You think it might come out in January?
I think it'd be sooner rather than later, Ed. So January, I'd be surprised if it's not out by January. I think they want to initially have an interaction with the public and take that public, give that initial public input, and then go back to the drawing boards and just kind of implement some of the suggestions from the public as well as the LPA and the council, and then they'll come probably forward with a final product to submit for their application sometime this spring.
Now we're going to talk about Red Coconut. Right next door to Red Coconut was the Gulf View Colony, I believe is what it was called, and also destroyed. I understood they were under contract with a buyer. Have you heard anything more on that? I
met with the folks that were, and I don't know exactly if it's actually under contract. I know they were considering the property very seriously. This is an entity that was looking at sort of a mini Mercado. For those who have been to Mercado at Naples, it's a kind of a collection of very nice commercial retail shops. And they would have a modest hotel there. That's what they were looking at, and that's the what I had heard. That's 4.5 acres right there. I didn't realize it was that large back there, and it can be set back again from Estero Boulevard, and again maybe offer some of that that retail space that we were talking about before. That's in short supply because some of the volatility in some of the other retail plazas on the island. But that's very preliminary at this point. I don't think it's quite as far along as the Red Coconut, but it was very interesting proposal. And some of the shops that they were talking about in retail space was very, very interesting to me, at least. And again, there was nothing on paper. It was more of just a conversation, if you will, with the prospective owners. And so very preliminary on that front, but encouraging.
Yeah, and for those of you that joined late, we did discuss at length the Santini Plaza, but you'll have to go back to the beginning. It was 6:12 if you want to know exactly where we started that conversation at 12 minutes after. So all the details about that are at the beginning of the show. And we know Seagate owns the Red Coconut property, and what's the plan there? When are they going to show us something?
Well, I don't know what their timing is, but they've given it a lot of thought. Again, very rough concept at this point. I walked the property with them, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. It's an interesting dynamic. We talked a lot about public benefit before in discussing additional density. And I don't want to speak for them because this is all very preliminary, but their request isn't necessarily additional density, which is very interesting. And one of the things they want to offer in return for that is to not build out. Of course, they have that. Everybody knows the Red Coconut had the trailer park across the street on the beach as well. Beautiful beachfront property there. And so I think they, they're willing to lessen the density on the beach. Maybe just have a facility, kind of a beach club, if you will, for the members of their development on the other side of Estero. And they're also willing to build that development, again, not asking for additional density, but they're going to need some additional, they're going to ask for some additional height. But in return for that, they'll move that development back off Estero, so you don't have that canyon effect. And again, no additional density, but I think their need is height. And again, they've got 10 acres there at Red Coconut, so they can get far enough back where you really won't notice the height. And so again, everyone's just going to have to work together. We have to find a compromise, be flexible. These developers are not going to get everything they want, and they shouldn't. But at the same time, we've got to help them make their business model get to where at least it's a financial model. Because people got to remember, people say, "Oh, Atterholt, why are you giving them all this public benefit?" Well, we have to remember, particularly Red Coconut's a great example. They have a right to build X amount of density already. And they could build it in a very aggressive way, just creeping right on Estero. They could build it all on the beach. They're being thoughtful about how they're presenting it. They're trying to figure out a way to make the business model work, but not have it be so intrusive, and have it be much more aesthetic for the town. So it's not like we're giving them something for nothing. I mean, these folks already can build something significant because they can build by right based upon what the Red Coconut had before. So you're just trying to channel what they're building in a way that sort of serves the public interest of Fort Myers Beach. It's at the same time creates a good business model for them, but also there's a good guest experience, a good public benefit for everyone. So it's really a partnership, but it's not it's a process that we go through, and it can be a very positive process where there's winners on all sides.
So this question is kind of really coming from the audience about 4 or 5 times now, and apparently people are hungry on the south end because there's been a lot of questions about if Santini would be open to having food trucks in that parking area. Do you have until the restaurants are back? Any thoughts on that?
Great question. And I think once they get the Santini Plaza itself up and functioning, and get the building in good order so they can pass the keys off to the vendors, I think that's a great concept, and I'd be happy to suggest that to the owner. I think they've got until they can get the actual Santini Plaza operational, and they can take that fence down and have it all secure, and each individual unit would be secure. I think that at that point, I'd be surprised if they weren't open to that concept, because it will take a few months for those restaurants to get open. And I'd love to get that farmers market back to Santini Plaza. That was so wonderful, and maybe some food trucks permanent basis. I think the owner would be open. I don't want to speak for him, but I'd be surprised if he wouldn't be open to that, particularly once they get the building itself structurally where it needs to be, and they can turn those keys over. So I think that's a great idea. So, because we need places to eat on the south end. I mean, I love Fresh Catch and Junkanoo and all that. And quite frankly, this is the time of year where the people on the south end can drive to the north end and support those businesses as well, because the traffic's modest. So, but the folks are right. It would be nice to have some additional food options on the south end, and in the interim, those food trucks would be great.
So, Jim, do you keep mentioning compromise with the different proposals, like with Moss and maybe with the outrigger when it comes out. There's going to need to be compromise. With the way things kind of landed with the comprehensive plan, a lot of these, if not all these things, are going to go through the CPD process. Do you see your colleagues on the council, on the LPA, are they willing to compromise? Do you think they're going to look at each project and say, okay, if you come down a little bit, we'll give you this? Or are they gonna is it going to be hard line? The comprehensive plan is the comprehensive plan.
Well, again, I think the vast majority of folks, in fact, I can't think of anybody who's not, are pragmatic on the LPA and on the council. The town, it's a scenario too where if we're not careful, that these properties have the ability to build by right. So if we're too inflexible, they could just build high-end condos and turn them over, sell them. There's no public amenities there. There's nothing to benefit the public, nothing to benefit Fort Myers Beach. They don't quite make as much as they would have otherwise. Maybe it's a little bit reduced, but they got all these. We're going to have just a bunch of high-priced condos in a lot of these locations if we're not careful. So I think there's a pragmatism. I look at the chair of the LPA, and I want to single Anita out, but I mean she literally led the compromise efforts on Margaritaville. I watched it from start to finish. I mean, when people forget the Margaritaville thing there were not enough votes when we went into that process on the council, and Anita really through her diplomatic skills led the effort to find a compromise and to bring people together, ended up with a unanimous vote. And again, Tom had to give a lot. The TPI folks gave a lot. The town gave some. And so we ended up with a compromise that initially, the town was a little polarized, but over time, the town changed, and the vast majority of the folks are comfortable and supportive of Margaritaville. So the answer to your question is yes. I think we have a lot of pragmatic people on the LPA and the council. And my hope is we can find, and when I say compromise, I don't mean giving up the ship. And we have to be very sensitive to the traffic issue. We've got the Neptune Hotel coming in, and it's a great idea, but they're awfully aggressive on the room count, and that's right in the middle of a traffic area. And so the traffic piece to me is a big piece of the puzzle. And again, I don't expect these folks to solve the traffic problem. I just want to make sure what they're doing isn't going to make it any worse. And so that's my test. So what I've given a number of suggestions, and we've talked about this quite a bit, about things that people can offer to help mitigate their impact on traffic congestion. Again, we don't expect each individual business to solve it, and certainly some of the smaller businesses don't have the flexibility or the resources to do huge public benefit. But as I said before, the mom and pops, if just by their coming back, if they put together an interesting architectural design, that by having the mom and pops just coming back, that to me is a public benefit in and of itself, because that's what people say they want for Fort Myers Beach. So each individual property will be looked at uniquely and differently. But I'm hoping everybody has a spirit of compromise, because it seems like we can do this. And again, you'll never make everybody happy, but the goal is to listen to everybody and hear all their concerns and try to bring people together and solve problems. I mean, that to me is the crux of what we're supposed to be doing.
What do you want to do?
I don't know, Jim. There are some questions that are coming up. We're just not going to be able to get to them all. And
you
some
have a hard stop at 7, Ed? Because normally you're like,
I have to go to bed, Jim. I'm old. No, I don't. But when people ask about the Beach Theater, I mean, do you know anything about that? It's one of those things that we could be talking about every single building up and down the island. And, we're trying to get to the bigger ones with you because I know you're working with a lot of these people. So do you want to touch on that? Because it's come up 4 or 5 times.
I have to confess, I have nothing on the Beach Theater. I have asked everybody I know about the Beach Theater. I've heard all kinds of rumors, but I have heard nothing definitive where I'm comfortable saying anything definitive on it. I just don't know. That's been a mystery.
And the owner of that building does have to fix the mangroves. That's part of the deal of anything that they do over there. They pulled out the mangroves illegally, and they are in the process of dying on the sword there. He confessed that they were going to fix them, and I did see that. I think could have been the magistrate meeting that he was at, or one of the meetings. Could have been an LPA meeting, but they do have to fix the mangroves there. I don't know how you fix mangroves. Maybe replant them, but I know that's part of the process. So.
Yeah, sorry. Since we've got it, do you have some more stuff? Because I've got a couple of things I want to do. Yeah,
I know you wanted to talk about beach renourishment, and that question does come up a lot too. So, when do we start on that, and where do we start?
Well, it's already started significantly. I've been up and down the critical wildlife area, which is really the Wyndham south up to a point, up to where it opens up and gets larger. But there's been significant amount of sand behind all those condos put in. It's all been trucked in, high quality sand, and that's almost done. That's maybe another week or two, and and thanks to the folks at EBIA for letting the town use its beach access to truck that sand in. And again, high quality sand. The berm is very modest, doesn't block anybody's view. But boy, if we have a modest hurricane again, it's nice to have that emergency berm there. But I think it's so interesting to me on the sand issue. Again, emergency berm, is trucked in sand. But we're going to have a massive project of beach renourishment where we're going to be pumping in sand off the Gulf onto Fort Myers Beach. And I can't stress enough how major this is for the island. We're looking at over 1 million cubic yards of new sand for all the various projects, the pumped in sand, the dredged sand, as well as the emergency berm. So think about 1 million cubic yards of sand. That's if all of the grants, and most of this will be through the feds and the state and the county and the town. Town pays for a modest portion of this, but it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity for the town. But if everything comes together, we will have $40 million of new sand coming to Fort Myers Beach. And people say, "Gosh, that's a lot of sand." Well, I want people to remember that we lost a lot of sand even before Ian, just through the normal erosion process. So we've got to replace that sand, and then we lost about 250 or 220 cubic yards as a result of Ian. But again, we'd lost it for years before Ian. So there is going to be a massive amount of sand coming to Fort Myers Beach, and it's going to really help our beaches. And again, for those folks who've signed the easement and those who haven't, that's fine. But those who have, it's really going to be a game changer for Fort Myers Beach. And I think it's going to be spectacular for the island. So I just want to stress to people what a huge piece of the puzzle as we rebuild this. Of course, the beach and the water is everything. And if without that, we would be having to offer a lot of incentives for people to come to Fort Myers Beach. With the beach and the water, it's spectacular. So the sand piece is huge. I wanted
Hey,
to mention,
Jim, let me just ask you, the sand that's at Newton Park, is
Yeah.
that's been trucked in?
yes, that's all been. Yeah,
Okay.
nothing.
That is nice looking sand.
Oh, it's
I
beautiful.
mean-
I was walking through the sand the other day, but where the EBIA beach access is, and behind some of the Riviera there, and all those condos back there, the sand is just really high quality sand. Now years ago we dredged in some sand on the south end. There were a lot of rocks and shells, but this trucked in sand is spectacular. And I think they've identified some locations off island in the Gulf where hopefully that dredged in sand will be high quality as well. Certainly the color issue will match up nicely and so forth. And sometimes it takes a couple of years for those shells and rocks to get out of there, but hopefully that'll be decent sand that's dredged in. But it's just a Herculean effort, really once in a lifetime project for the island. And I think people will be very surprised when that gets done. What a monumental project that'll be. I also wanted to mention too, the beach school is opening on December 5th. And they're going to have a ribbon cutting at 9:00. And that is open to the public. There was some confusion about that, about whether it would be open to the public. There's a lot of security issues with the kids and all that. But the kids will be coming. They'll be at Bay Oaks before that, having breakfast. They've got a before school program. And around 7:30, the kids will be marching from the Bay Oaks facility to the school. And if folks want to come out, and it may be from a little distance, I'm not sure what the path is exactly. All the sidewalks, by the way, with everybody's handprints have been preserved, and that'll be on the side of the school that faces Bay Oaks. And so all the kids will march over to the school. They'll go to school. They'll settle in, get oriented, and then the kids will come out at 9:00. The elected officials will come out. They were kind enough to ask me to speak, but I insisted that somebody from the island speak. One of the parents, Jenny Tardif, who's president of the school board, she was on the ad hoc committee with us. I mean, those are the people that saved the beach school. Jenny and all the parents, quite frankly, were unbelievable. But Jenny was on the ad hoc committee. Patrick Van Ness, John Koss, and then Monica Schmucker was on the ad hoc committee. And of course, Monica's running for school board at large for Lee County. So everybody get out and support Monica, because that really helps Fort Myers Beach and the beach school. But that ad hoc committee will be represented by Jenny at the ceremony. The Principal Kohler, who's just a dynamo, and a Wisconsin grad, I might add, the University of Wisconsin. Great lady. And she'll be speaking. Of course, the superintendent and the president of the school board, or the chair of the school board, will be speaking. But it'll be a nice event to really encourage the kids. And then after the speeches, which I hope will be short, then the kids will go back get into school. But then there'll be a brief break, and then they're going to go alongside the school, and then they're going to raise an American flag that was flown over the Capitol 1 year after Ian. And then there'll be another state flag that was flown over the Capitol 1 year after Ian. And that'll be a nice little ceremony, very short. So if folks want to stick around for that, I just encourage people to come out and support the kids and support the school. And that,
Well,
again,
you must have spoke to somebody above my pay grade, because last I heard from Robert Spicker was that it wasn't open to the public. So if you know something I don't know, that's great, because if the public can go to something that they worked so hard for over the last year, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I talked to Principal Kohler today, and she was so excited about the event and was encouraging people. Now, when we come to the event for the ribbon cutting, and you may have to stand a little bit, on the sidewalks and maybe across the street,
Sure,
because all these protocols, they've got to be careful with the kids. But it will be an opportunity to see it and participate in it as a member of the public. So, again, encourage folks to come out. And I want to mention one other little thing. Because it may have gotten lost in one of our meetings. So we had just our most recent meeting, the public works folks, town manager and our director of operations came forth with a plan for street water and stormwater improvements. We've seen a lot of flooding post-Ian on our streets. And this tier 1 group, these would be the streets that are going to get triaged first. The first group A will be hopefully early next year, and they're going to come in and really try to straighten things out from a drainage standpoint. The streets are Estrelita Drive, Bahia Villa, Williams Drive, and then the group B, which will follow immediately afterwards. Now, the mayor asked a good question, said, can we do it concurrently? And they're going to work on that. But the next set of streets are Albatross, Fairview Boulevard, Clearview Boulevard, Sunview Boulevard. Next set of streets is Madison Court, Shell Mound Boulevard, Andre Marr, Mandalay Road. And then the next group, Group D, is Mid Island Drive, Bayland Road, Seminole Way, and Sterling Avenue, and then Pepita Street, the outfall there. So those are the folks who are listening who have drainage issues. Help is on the way, and it'll be a significant investment from the town in these areas, and hopefully we'll get those drainage issues solved. And they're continuing to clean out the stormwater system, even as it's already been cleared out across the island, but now we're on the second and third time, of course, additional sand and debris gets in there, and it's been a real challenge post-Ian, but hopefully things will get better along the way, and I wanted to mention that.
And Jim, that is a 5-year project. That all that work with those roads that you mentioned, a 5-year project.
Those roads will be hopefully in that first year, because they've just tried to prioritize the ones that are the most challenged right now. I wanted to mention, I hope I'm going a little bit over, Ed, but this is interesting, I think.
Right.
I had a chance earlier this week to go over to the Bayside Park, and we've got a local artist who was in Sanibel, lost his home and a studio in Sanibel, has moved off Sanibel, now has a temporary place off Sanibel. Hopefully he'll be back. A guy named Luke Century. And Luke is the guy who literally invented the procedure to engrave the names on the Vietnam Memorial, Veterans Memorial out in D.C. on the beautiful Veterans Wall out right on the mall there in Washington, D.C. And he's going to be hired by the town to put together a monument for our veterans right at Bayside Park. Right if you're facing the park and you're looking at the water and you're on the street there, it'll be over to the right a little bit at an angle in that grassy area. And they'll have a little, Frankie was there, who's our director of operations, and then Barbara Hill, who's she's chair of the CELPCAT committee, but she's also an artist, and she's been in the art world forever. And she knew Luke as a personal friend. So we've got this great local connection. And so he's designing this piece of art. The structure itself will likely be a piece of keystone, which has kind of an island look to it. But he will have the famous black tiles that the Vietnam Memorial was built. It's black granite, and then he'll use his engraving technique we'll have a quote from President Reagan and President Kennedy that honors our veterans. And there's discussion about, and I want to tease this out tonight because I want the public to kind of think about this a little bit, but there's also discussion of changing the name of the park to Bayside Veterans Park. And so, or something similar to that. So I want people to begin to think about that and see if that's an idea that they would be comfortable with, and then we would put that on the plaque as well. But the plaque itself, it's a nice, some people may not know, but President Reagan and former President Reagan, former President Kennedy, both veterans. President Reagan, a World War II veteran, had a much different veterans experience than President Kennedy did. Of course, Reagan was he was an up-and-coming movie star when he got when he was called up in 1942. He had been in the reserves, and he had terrible vision. So it wasn't like he was ducking anything, but he had terrible vision, so they wouldn't let him go overseas. So he made over 400 war training films for all the troops and all the training programs. And he also helped push and market and sell war bonds. And then, of course, President Kennedy was this young kid coming out of Harvard, and he was stateside. He was doing military intelligence. And to give you a sense of how times have changed, he literally, his dad was very politically influential. And so, there was a time when that influence would be used to get you out of war. But back then, Kennedy pressured his father to get him shipped overseas so he could get in the action. And so, and the President Kennedy ended up on a torpedo patrol boat in near the Solomon Islands, and he was the lieutenant in charge of the small boat, and they were out trying to torpedo Japanese destroyers, and they were out one night, pitch black. It was, of course, on the famous PT-109, and the boat literally got hit by a jet. It was so dark, nobody could see before all this technology, and the boat was hit by a Japanese destroyer, split in two. Two of the men on the PT-109 were killed, and then Kennedy, who was a swimmer at Harvard, he gathered the remaining 11 up, and one of the guys was severely burned. He grabbed his life preserver by his teeth and literally swam a mile to shore. They ended up swimming to another island 2 or 3 miles away to try to find more food. They were stranded for about a week. Finally ran into some natives and Kennedy wrote a message on a coconut, which they then took back to civilization, where they came back and rescued him. Kennedy later had that coconut on the White House desk, and so they both had completely different, both contributed, but both had different war experiences and military experiences, but both tremendous supporters of our military and our veterans. So I think that concept hopefully will be intriguing to folks. We've made a pledge. Previous councils made a pledge to have that be have an honor to honor our veterans at that park, and hopefully we'll be able to fulfill that pledge. And lastly, on a lighter note, on Friday of this week, I believe it's this Friday, I think the Beach Talk folks are helping the town put the poinsettia Christmas tree together on Thursday. And I think on Friday at 5:30, there's going to be a ceremony, a tree topping ceremony. And, the mayor has many qualities, but one of the things that's unique about our mayor that I don't think any other mayor in the country has this Rolodex, but he has a connection to Santa Claus that most people don't have. I mean, he can get a hold of Santa Claus. He can have him appear at various events. He's got this great relationship and history with Santa Claus. So there's a rumor that Santa Claus might be there on Friday at 5:30. So bring the kids. I think they're handing out candy canes. And I think they're going to top the poinsettia tree with a fun little ceremony. It'll be very light and festive. So if folks want to come out for that and just participate, that of course, that poinsettia trees are beautiful. Part of our culture here in Fort Myers Beach. So just thank you for the Yellow Army folks for coming out on Thursday to help, and then encourage folks to come out on Friday and participate with Santa Claus for the tree topping ceremony.
All right, Jim, one last question before you let you go. What?
Let me.
All right, go ahead.
What's your plan to run?
Oh, you mean for re-election? Well, I have to. I never.
No, in the 5K coming up too.
Well, the plan is for Brenda and I both to run in the 5K. Now, she was supposed to. I don't know if she did or not, but I know that's our bad if we haven't yet. But we are signing up. We've both been training on the beach on the south end. And I got to tell you that the tides have been pretty high lately, so we've been running on that soft sand. So it's pretty brutal training, but we're looking forward to that. And again, encourage folks, even if they're walking, to participate in that fun run. I think you've got record numbers this year, which I think is tremendous.
Yeah. Great.
But on the run for re-election, I only hesitated, not because I didn't feel a calling or a desire to continue to serve. Our life was in kind of, if you asked me this a couple months ago, Ed, I remember you were giving me grief about it a little bit in a fun way. And our lives were in disarray. We didn't, we were renting a place on the island. Our condo building is still not, you can't be lived in, and probably won't be for a few more months. We were very fortunate a month ago to be able to sell our unit to somebody who knew the building well and had a little bit more time on there. They didn't live there on the island, so they were able to have a little bit more time. So we bought a place over in Waterside, which is beautiful. We love it over here. And so we were able to sell our place, move to a place, because we needed a place to live. Because, once season comes, all the rents go up quite a bit, and it was really tough to try to find a place. And so we were with a little bit of volatility there, and that was my hesitancy, because we just didn't have any stability in our lives at that time. So that's all sort of shaken out. So I really look forward to the privilege of serving again. Probably have a formal announcement in the next month or two, but yes, definitely leaning in that direction. So thank you for asking.
Made news tonight. Thank you for that. Now we got all the issues taken care of. We got a history lesson.
No, we didn't, but we got
no, I know. I mean, we really appreciate you having the detail on all those topics. And there's, you just can't get in every single building in 1 hour show. I mean, there's just so much work to be done. There's so many projects going on. And I say this more every weekend. You do see a lot of residential construction going on up and down Estero Boulevard, up and down the side streets more than ever before. So there is, a lot more activity than there has ever been in rebuilding the residential areas right now, Fort Myers Beach, which is great to see and great to hear.
You really can sense the energy, and it's very positive. Kim, you'll probably shoot me for saying this, but I hope you continue your bike rides. On a Sunday morning, your voice is so soothing, and you're almost like a Mr. Rogers effect. You have this very soothing way about you. It's calming. I love the Sunday bike rides, and Ed has a little bit more frenetic energy for his walk-arounds, but they're always very informational. But I also know you guys need to have a life, so whatever works well for your life-work balance, I support it.
It's, we're part of it is, I mean, we're busy, we're doing stuff, but sometimes I'm like, is it really changing enough to keep people's interest? So, I mean, that was more of the thing. I've gotten some really good constructive feedback on, going a little too fast on the bike, because sometimes I get
and we just got new microphones. How could you quit? They sound great.
I get going too fast, but I do try to stay really, really calm, mostly just riding the bike and holding the camera, and I try to not put people on camera. I try to keep it away till I get
very respectful.
Can you let 2 minutes? Just some indication that it's, they're okay with it and whatever. But, if people find it helpful, then, we'll.
But Jim, the way I look at her bike rides is people don't look at it like, oh, she's going down the same street. There's not much going on there, because there's enough separation from one time to the next time when she goes back down the same roads. But I don't think people care. I think they just want to see the place that they wish they could be at that time. They want to be down there. Now, some of them might have come down, but they still want to be back down more than anything.
Thing too is I hope soon, and I said this on Sunday, is I really hope that somebody gets a webcam up and going, because I think people, there used to be 4 or 5 on the beach that people could, check in the middle of the day and look at the water. And I mean, people will do that. It's, it's
the bird thing.
It's so relaxing.
Legs. I mean, how long can it's like watching the U-log?
No, I watch webcams all over the world, and it's very fascinating.
I live here, and Brent and I are running and biking and walking all over the beach. I still enjoy watching them. Just to see you, just the other day, you were going by Greg Scastia. You can see kids are asleep in the trailer. You can see his whole setup, how people are surviving in these difficult times and still have a good attitude and thriving. I mean, I think it's very encouraging to people, and I enjoy them very much.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for everything and all the great information, folks. If you missed the early part of the show and you want to know about Santini Plaza, that's where you're going to go at about 12 minutes after. It'll be in the newsletter tomorrow. I'm going to write it up for the newsletter. We do have a library update in the newsletter tomorrow, so make sure you get it. It goes out before 6 o'clock, and if you don't get it, just let us know. We still need about 5 volunteers to help with the poinsettia on Thursday. And all that's going to be in the newsletter tomorrow. Jim, thanks for filling in for Dan so much. And we appreciate you and our friendship and everything you do for us in the town.
Thanks for all you do. And please keep Dan and his family in your prayers. And again, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. The Vice Mayor, Jim Atterholt, everybody. And also, if you missed earlier, he did mention that Dan's grandmother passed away. And if you want to send him an email, I'm sure he would appreciate that. He did fly up to Minnesota to be with the family today. I think he's on a flight. Right now he might still be on the flight to get up there, but he'll be back next Monday for our final Monday night show remotely, and then we move it to Sundays at Wahoo Willie's. We love Wahoo Willie's. We're looking forward to seeing you live on Sundays for brunch with the mayor on Sundays at 11 o'clock.
I just don't know how I'm going to ride the bike and still have hair to do the show on Sunday.
Might need a place to shower. They got a really nice gym in Margaritaville. I noticed that. So, and before we let you go, we did want to thank Starlight Electric for being a sponsor of tonight's show with the vice mayor. Their phone number is 239-313-7122. Give Starlight Electric a call if you need somebody to help you out with your electric. They are locally family owned and operated since 2013. They're licensed in Florida since 2004. Both owners involved in daily operations, and one is now a Fort Myers Beach resident. So please give Starlight Electric a call. They have a really cool special going on for you through the end of this year to celebrate one of their owners becoming a resident. The only way you're going to find out what that is if you call 239-313-7122, because they're sitting out in their car right now waiting for you to call them on their cell phone. We do have a lot going on this week. On Wednesday night at 4:30, we'll be broadcasting live from the Neptune with the owners of the Neptune to see what their plans are and to see what's going on with that property. We want to thank Linda at the Farmers Market. That was an incredible time that we had last Friday in Times Square.
Came
free
up,
stuff.
so much stuff.
Still eating it. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, the chocolate. That's long gone.
Yeah. Thank you to Linda for inviting us to the farmers market. Thank you all for gobbling up the black hoodies. We're out of pullovers and zip ups, but we have ordered a lot more, and we're kind of putting pressure on our vendor to get them done so we can get them to you if you want to use them as Christmas gifts. It's a real easy gift, a real easy buy for somebody. And we appreciate you wearing our logo on whatever it is that you have. So thanks again to Jim Atterholt, and we will be back Wednesday night, Saturday morning at Wahoo Willie's, and then we'll see you around town. So bye-bye.